Hi, I'm Chris Haigh and this is the Fiddle channel, and today we're going to play on Green Dolphin Street. Green Dolphin Street was a request for Dwight, and this is indeed a fascinating tune. It includes swing, it includes Latin, and it also is of interest to newgrass players, because this tune was recorded by Tony Rice, and that's what got me onto this tune. But anyway, it was written in 1947 for the film Green Dolphin Street, and if you ever watch that film, you'll wonder, was that really the tune from this film? Because the original version is pretty slow and dreary. It's a nice melody, but it has nothing of the excitement of later versions. Jimmy Dorsey did a slow big band arrangement, which is quite nice, but it was Barney Kessel in 1957 who brought this tune to life, in my opinion. He alternated the first half Latin with the second half swing, and he used a bass pedal over the C over the first section, which is really successful. And I think it was this version which inspired Tony Rice in 1982 to record this on his Backwaters album. And if you are of a newgrass persuasion, then there is no better album than this. Absolutely lovely stuff, with fiddle solos from Richard Green and Fred Carpenter. And I have to admit that I'm not enough of a connoisseur of either of their playing to be able to recognise which solo is which. So I'm going to give you the basic melody. I'm going to talk about the Latin and swing rhythms. We're going to have a go at soloing over what is potentially a fairly tricky sequence. We're going to look at a very fancy lick from one of these Tony Rice solos. And I'll talk about what to do when the chords change as fast as they do in the last two lines. So lots to be getting on with. Let's start off with the basic melody, and I'll play this straight away with the backing, but all Latin. Now, the exact phrasing of this can be very variable. So the way I've written it out, like that, there's a load of different ways of approaching that, as I'll demonstrate in a minute. And something in the fourth line, we've got this, a C flat and a D flat. On the Tony Rice version, I'm pretty sure they go C natural, D natural, and I actually prefer the C natural, D natural, and it's a lot easier. But if you're a strict jazz player, you might sneer at that. The bit at the end is on the Tony Rice version, and I really like that. I'm pretty sure that's not on the original. So let's do it again. This time I'm going to shake around the phrasing quite a lot, and I'm going to do quite a lot of fills, because there's quite a few places where there are two bars with only one note, and that's room for a bit of improvisation. If you watch Tim Klipphus's version of this, he does it at this kind of tempo and with the Latin feel, and he does it very funky and groovy, and it's well worth watching. And this is a limp imitation of how he does it. notice that when you play in a Latin rhythm, all of your quavers have got to be straight. So you don't want... It's got to be... da ba da 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 da, not da ba do ba da da ba da. And this becomes more important when we do actually alternate between swing and Latin. So this time let's do the same thing again, but listen to the rhythm as it changes. So quite a big change. And when it comes to deciding how to do this tune, you have a lot of options, because you could do the whole thing Latin, you could do the whole thing swing, you could alternate Latin and swing on the melody at the beginning and do all of the solos just swing, which I think is kind of what Tony Rice does. So I think it's better when soloing not to switch rhythm in the middle of a solo. I think it's better to have one or the other. Now, talking of soloing, I'm going to look at 3 different approaches to the A section, because we've got some interesting chords here, potentially challenging chords. But if you look at them, we're going from C major, C major 7, to C minor 7, to D7 over a C pedal, to a D flat, to a C major 7. So one line that's implied in there is that, which is fairly obvious. Let me just play that and I will just hang a solo around those notes. So another approach to those same chords, so you could start with a G, which is the 5th of the C major 7, and hold the same note for the C minor 7, and then go to a F sharp for the D7, an F natural for the D flat, and an E for the C major 7. So it's another descending line. And this is a great one for doing either a double E or a double A. A third approach would be to follow what the bass is doing, which is kind of doing a C all the way through. Let's just hear that. Which again is interesting. You wouldn't want to do that more than once, but once round, just working on the C would be good. What we have after that is a 2-5-1 in C. And I did do a video all about the 2-5-1. It's a very useful thing in jazz. Basically, you can do this all the same notes for the scale. But try and avoid hitting the actual C note until you hit the C chord. Something like that would work fine. But it's an easy thing to play over, and you'll be familiar with a lot of patterns that go with that. We follow that with another 2-5-1. An F minor 7 to B flat 7 to E flat major 7. And again, having stock phrases to go over a 2-5-1 is useful, particularly when it's a more difficult chord like E flat major 7. But what I want to show you is a wonderful lick from the Tony Rice version, which baffled me for a long time as I was listening to it. The lick goes like this. And it took me a long time to realise that this is a B flat augmented lick. So the logic is that we're in E flat, the dominant chord is B flat 7, and you can always substitute a dominant 7 for an augmented. So you raise the fifth, and what this lick is, it's going down a whole tone scale, which is the scale that you use on an augmented chord. So this is a very kind of theoretical approach, and I will bet that this is something that whichever soloist it was learned in music college and used many times before he found the perfect place to slot it in, which is this number. I'm going to try playing the slowish version, and I will just slot this in when it comes and see what you think of it. Here's the first 2-5-1. And here we go. And in case you were wondering, it took me about a week to learn this, playing it over and over again. The fingering, there's no logic to it. So it's just a matter of doing it, getting the muscle memory going on it. There's one other really good lick, which works over the C minor 7. It's a hemiola, which is a 3-beat phrase. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And this works over the C minor 7 and the subsequent chords. And again, this is from the Tony Rice solos. So I'm just going to play that again. And this is a good example of letting the chords do the work. So rather than thinking hard about what the chords are and following them, you play something that you know is going to work, and as the chords change, what you play is going to sound more interesting, which is always a good thing. Finally, let's look at the last two lines. D minor 7, D minor over C, B minor 7 flat 5, E 7 flat 9, A minor 7, A minor 7 over G, F sharp minor 7 flat 5, B 7, E minor 7, A 7, D minor 7, G 7, C major 7. If you imagine this was the first tune, the first jazz tune you'd ever learnt, and your teacher told you, yes, they're all different chords and you have to play a different scale for each one. There are people who will tell you that. Fortunately, this is actually an extremely easy sequence. You can virtually ignore it. And had I been to university to study jazz, my professor no doubt would have thrown up his hands in horror to hear me say such a thing, but it's absolutely true. Let me hammer through a solo, and when it gets to those last two lines, I'm just going to play C major and see what happens. So I could have expended all of my hard RAM memory, whatever it's called, on attempting to follow those chords. But in fact, what I did sounded far better. I completely ignored all of those chords and it sounded great, in my humble opinion. So don't always take chords too literally. And remember that any accompanist is going to change any of those chords whenever he or she feels like it. So your efforts in trying to follow those chords will be totally wasted. So hope you enjoyed this. If you'd like a copy of the dots, then do subscribe and send me an email. If you would like to get hold of the backing track, this is one of the benefits that you can get by joining me on Patreon, along with all of my PDFs and all sorts of other benefits as well. And that's what keeps the videos coming. So thank you for watching and see you again soon.